If you're shopping for your first home in Colorado, you've probably heard someone say, use CHFA, it's free money. And while CHFA can absolutely be an amazing program for the right buyer, as a realtor here in Colorado, I've also seen buyers use it when they probably ultimately shouldn't have. In fact, some buyers end up paying significantly more over time, depending on what that looks like when it comes to negotiating power, or even potentially limiting their options simply because nobody explained the downsides to this incredible program. Hi, I'm so glad you're here. My name is Jessica Arguello. I am a Colorado realtor serving clients just like you each and every day, reaching out to me from this incredible platform, YouTube. I was once just like you in the same position and predicament. Where do you go? Who do you start with? What are the starting points and what are your options ultimately? Utilize me as a resource if you're looking for representation or a realtor to help you buy your first home. My info is down below to possibly connect and help you. Let's jump right into it. This video is not about utilizing CHFA. This video is 100% about making sure that you're using the right tool for your specific situation. Let's jump right into it. The first mistake I see is buyers automatically assuming that they need down payment assistance or this program, when a lot of buyers ultimately either have savings accounts or something that they can utilize for their down payment. Understand that this does not have to be a huge amount, it just has to be enough. Most buyers that I work with have at least $15,000, $20,000, or even in some cases $30,000 available, and they sometimes still want to use CHFA because nobody really directed them on if it's even a good option for them and the downsides to this program. Question really should not be, can I qualify for CHFA? But ultimately you should redirect the question and say, do I actually need it? Especially if you can comfortably afford a loan without assistance and without some type of down payment assistance option. This may offer you more flexibility, more long-term cost options, as well as fewer restrictions. So sometimes the best financing option is just the simplest one. Don't overthink it and don't overcomplicate it either. Number two, this is one of the biggest things that many buyers really overlook. Utilizing this program will higher your interest rate. And before anyone really gets upset, especially in the comments, this does not mean that CHFA rates are bad. It just means that you're often trading a higher rate for potentially lower upfront cash requirements to close. This problem is something that many buyers really focus on when it comes to today and being very rate focused, when I don't think that should really be your goal and your mindset going into it. So what matters is really what that next 5-year plan looks like for you. A slightly higher interest rate on, say, a $500,000 home can significantly change that money over time. So always compare the monthly payment, total interest paid, as well as cash needed at closing, your long-term cost, and don't just focus on one number. Traditionally, if we are at 6% standard across the board, I would say you can expect for CHFA to increase that interest rate about 0.5%. So if the market's showing 6%, utilizing CHFA will often heighten it 0.5%, increasing it to 6.5. If you're just curious where people and consumers, where someone like you should look at interest rates, I always often push my clients to utilize Mortgage News Daily. It's a great option and it gives you an insight to market trends, where the market's at, and all of that. Number three, this is something that buyers rarely hear. Especially in a competitive market, sellers often prefer offers that appear much simpler and cleaner, especially depending on how that dialogue and how that is presented to them. Some listing agents representing the sellers often hear down payment assistance and immediately assume more paperwork, timelines, potential issues, and I don't really think that's always fair to the buyer. Also understand that depending on the real estate agent that you utilize and how your offer is tailored, again, that approach and how it's presented ultimately from your lender, your realtor, this can be a lose-lose or a win-win. I always say that With my clients, the agent of the seller does not need to know that you're utilizing CHFA, and I never have my buyers pre-approved that want to utilize this program. So just understand that if you're utilizing an agent who may be newer or is not really familiar with this program, it could be a downside to getting your offer accepted, especially depending on market trends and where the market's at. If it's more seller heavy, if it's a buyer's market, make sure you have someone that really knows the lingo and is confident in you as a buyer and ultimately you really trust. Because when sellers are comparing 5 offers on the same property, perception really does matter. I've seen buyers lose homes not because they weren't qualified, but because another offer just looked much simpler, easier, and cleaner. If you're shopping in a highly competitive area, especially like Denver Metro, maybe Thornton area, or where you're just prone to a lot more activity, this can absolutely influence your success. So again, just make sure you're mindful of that and really cognitive about who represents you in this next step and phase of life. Number 4, this one really does create a lot of confusion a lot of the time. So a lot of buyers here, CHFA gives you down payment assistance, which is free money. What they don't fully understand, and this is something that I often get asked, is how that assistance really is structured. So depending on the program, you're often taking an additional loan or a silent second mortgage. That loan may have repayment requirements later. I've sat with buyers who were shocked months into the process when they realized that they had multiple liens against the property. So nothing was hidden, they just didn't fully understand it. So when utilizing CHFA, there are 2 options to utilizing this program. One is the silent second, where it sits in second position, and you're required to pay that money back when you ultimately refinance, when you sell the home, or if you decide to finish out the term of that 30-year term, you're required to pay that money back immediately. And then you also have the grant option. The grant option is in fact a grant and it is free money. So just know that there are different requirements. Each program within CHFA, it's under one entity, but there are different options. It just has a little bit more requirements. It's a little bit more stricter and all of that. If you do decide to do the silent second position, as it sits in the silent second position, you will not accrue interest while it sits there whatsoever. So if you do in fact only borrow $15,000 today, 2026, if you go to sell, refinance the home, say 2030 in that year, you're still required to pay that exact amount back. So a lot of ways to structure this and really get creative if you decide to move forward with this option. Number 5, many first-time home buyers assume that they will often refinance later, but you really have to understand what that looks like. Will rates fall? Will your income grow? And is this something that you ultimately want to have on your mortgage if you want to remove your mortgage insurance at a later time? Many first-time homebuyers assume that they will often just refinance later and they can do it at a later time. You have to understand that rates may fall, but they may grow. Your income may grow, but it also may decrease. And is this something that you obviously want on your back end of your mortgage just for the long haul, just for your mindset? But some down payment assistance options can really just complicate refinancing and refinancing plans. I've seen some homeowners discover that refinancing wasn't as straightforward as they expected because of the assistance or the down payment assistance attached to the property. Again, this does not make CHFA bad, and many of my buyers utilize it, but I really just want to help you understand what that looks like upon exiting this strategy if you decide to enter into this program. You really want to understand what does refinancing look like for your specific situation, not 5 years from now, but ultimately before you buy. So having a lender as well as a realtor who can really make sense of this for you, map out your goals, and if you are really bargaining and waiting to refinance for a more comfortable payment because interest rates are a little bit more high on the higher end as of right now, just understand what that looks like for you. Tip number 6. This may be the biggest mistake of all. Many buyers say, I need help with my down payment. But oftentimes, a lot of my buyers included, after really reviewing their financing, that's not really always the issue or the case. The issue really comes down to monthly payment affordability. Getting into a house is one thing, but comfortably being able to say that you're paying those payments monthly and that you're not house poor is really another. So if your monthly payment already feels really stretched, down payment assistance doesn't always solve that program, especially if you're factoring high-end interest rates and all of that. It simply just gets you into the front door. You don't always need that payment. You need a payment that really works long-term. Sometimes my buyers just want to have a little bit more funds in their bank account in case of like an oh no day happens or a unicorn of a day happens, just like their oh no fund. And then some of my buyers are okay exhausting their funds, putting those funds towards a down payment that they're more comfortable at, while also being able to say, yes, this money is just invested elsewhere. And I always remind my clients that this is still your money. This money is not going anywhere. It is just in a new investment. This is in your forever home, and this is in your next investment. You just really have to have that mindset that this is not wasted money of yours. It's just, again, being invested in now the real estate market, which is a promising one, especially in Colorado. My next tip is understanding how utilizing a down payment assistance program can really alter and shift your negotiating power as well as your leverage as a buyer in today's market. Again, we're in May, June of 2026, so the market's really shifted as of this year, and we're seeing it kind of level out where sellers are a little bit more reluctant to really leverage and offer insane amount of concessions, especially if they're coming in at a really promising home price. They're straightforward with everything that's done with the home, and the home is in pristine condition. If you utilize a program like CHFA, any type of down payment assistance program, it really does not allow you to buy that interest rate down, which many buyers are doing in this market. So many of my buyers at this time are leveraging concessions, which is the credit that many home buyers are offering, or depending on how your real estate professional is negotiating on your behalf, able to get those concessions. You as a buyer are able to utilize those funds in a multitude of ways. Many of my buyers are very forward with wanting to be comfortable with that monthly payment and also being very rate conscious. So utilizing, say, $15,000, $10,000 out of the seller's pocket, they're able to buy that rate in some cases into the 4%. So just understand, if you utilize down payment assistance, although it did recently shift, where you're able to buy those funds down a tad with the seller's financing, you really can't do it as crazy as you would be able to if you decided to utilize your own funds for the down payment. This is something many buyers never explore. Depending on your profession, income level, military status, location, employer, and ultimately your financial situation, there may be grants, incentives, lender credits, physician loans, community programs, or other financing options available. I've had buyers assume CHFA was their only path to home ownership, and then oftentimes we discover a completely different program that may just end up fitting them so much better. So never just stop at one option, really compare multiple paths, and ideally have someone well-versed in all Colorado state specific programs and loan options and programs for you as a first-time buyer, please. This is my very last tip that buyers don't really think about: reserves after closing and what that looks like. So let's say CHFA helps you buy the house. Great, you're in a house, you own a home, your goals are accomplished. So now let's ideally talk about what that looks like for the furnace breaking or the water heater potentially failing, potential roof leaks, and then the oh no happens and your car breaks down. So one of the biggest concerns is when buyers use every available dollar simply to get into the property. Homeownership then comes with the fun things of like the surprises of buying your home and living in it, and deferred maintenance, the upkeep, all of that. Hail, Colorado has a ton of hail and wind, which is like a tragedy to your roof. So you do definitely want to reserve some of those funds and make sure that you have enough to survive post-closing day. And this is ultimately why a lot of buyers who ultimately have the funds but don't necessarily want to spend them choose to utilize a CHFA, even if they have the reserves and savings to move forward with a home purchase. So a lot of things to navigate here. It's not a one size fits all whatsoever, but just really look at it from a cost to goal to time frame situation. And again, always just make sure that you're utilizing a trusted realtor, loan partner, a team, if you will, and not just someone that was referred to you that you feel like you have to use. And that's probably my biggest downside I have from a lot of buyers, is they felt like they had to use X, Y, and Z, and now they are feeling like they didn't get all of their options presented to them as a first-time buyer. So just look at all of that before committing to a program. If you're looking in the Colorado real estate area or the Denver metro area, I help Broomfield, Aurora, Colorado Springs. I'm helping a buyer right now in Evans, Greeley, Colorado. I'd love to help you. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, like this video, and also reach out to me. That is why I'm here. I love doing these videos. This is my 6th year on YouTube, and most of my buyers and clients come from this incredible platform. Reach out to me, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.